Hey, what's up and welcome back to Interpreting the Scares. That's right, it's October again, so get ready for another month-long set of reviews covering even more horror franchises. Starting off with the first Hellraiser film. Hellraiser is ultimately about a man who cheats death and torture by the Cenobites by convincing his brother's wife, who he once had an affair with, to invite gentlemen callers over to her house for him to feed on. The more people he eats, the more he becomes whole again. Interestingly enough, I saw this film now 3 times. For whatever reason, I never got around to reviewing it in either written nor video format, even though I did actually like it. That being said, I never got around to watching any of the subsequent sequels, as I feel like it's a horror franchise akin to that of the Phantasm series, in that each film is a little bit different than its humble beginnings. Maybe not, though, I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, this first Hellraiser film is incredibly classic, and it's easy to see, at the very least, why it became such a cult classic that ended up having such a ton of sequels. The plot alone is incredibly simple. This guy dies at the beginning of the movie, and his plan is to come back to the land of the living, but it's not like any other reanimation film where he's like a zombie. In this, he starts off as just blood on the floor, and the more people that he consumes, the more his body begins to grow muscle tissue, veins, skin, bones, patches of hair, etc. It's a slow progression, and it's all done with some of the best practical effects that I've ever seen from horror. And the very look of this creature, whose name is Frank, is definitely one of nightmares. Psychologically, it's a horror film because he's getting his brother's wife to kill people for him to eat just so that they can be together again, which is just awful on so many levels. And I haven't even begun to talk about the Cenobites. This series is potentially most known for Pinhead. He's on the poster of like every single movie in this franchise, and it's clear as to why. His character is unforgettably iconic. He's visually disturbing, as is his other Cenobite counterparts. His background and his intentions are absolutely mysterious. Even though Pinhead himself is barely in this movie as a whole, I can tell that there's so much more to learn about him. That's the thing about classic horror films. You watch the first, and they don't necessarily feel like a movie that needs sequels. But this one does. It feels like there's this entire universe that's still left to explore. And because I haven't seen any of the other movies, I have no idea what they're going to do. But I'm really interested at this point to see if they explore some of those other things that I want them to explore. As for negatives, I don't know. I suppose some of the elements are certainly aged and noticeably distracting, like the use of audio dubbing for Frank. I have the feeling that there were 3 different actors playing Frank. I mean, there's the living actor, there's the monster actor, and whoever voiced both of them. And I'm bittersweet on the voice. On one hand, it's this deep and menacing, scary, evil voice. On the other hand, it's distractingly fake, and obviously not coming out of the mouth of these actors. Therefore, it's kind of corny. I like the deep voice, but because Pinhead already has a deep, menacing voice, I felt like it was unnecessary to change Frank's voice. I mean, performance-wise, I thought most people here did a pretty good job, but nothing crazy. Honestly, I don't have many things that are specifically bad to talk about. Most of this film is absolutely solid, especially for the 80s. They were bold with some of the things that they did here, and I have to praise them for that. Let's go ahead and break down my final score. From an unbiased technical perspective, I think that this film was made really well, especially in the visuals department. The sheer focus on practical effects for the gore, the makeup for the Cenobites, and set design for their world was absolutely breathtaking. But everything else in this movie was mostly, business as usual. So this won't be a perfect score, but it will be decent at 76%. As for my bias score, I had a lot of fun with this movie. It's super original and introduced highly memorable characters in the Cenobites. It's even got a good sense of psychological thrills. This score is 90%, averaging everything out to a final score of 83%. 83 out of 100 possible stars, or a B+ letter grade. This is actually a fantastic start to my Interpreting the Scares event. The series could eventually take a nosedive in the nearby future, but for what it is, at the moment, I think it's actually a great idea with a ton of promise. We'll see where it goes though. Guys, have you seen Hellraiser? If so, let me know what you thought of it in the comments section down below. And as for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit that like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with my next review. And until then, peace out.
Dave examines movies we just watch for fun. Davey is the expert. He is the #1 critic that I go to when I need a movie.